You're listening to Clearview Today with Dr. Abadan Shah, the daily show that engages mind and heart for the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm Ryan Hill.
I'm John Galantis.
And you can find our show online by visiting clearviewtodayshow.com. Or if you have any questions for Dr. Shah or suggestions for new topics, send us a text to 252-582-5028. Or you can email us at contact@clearviewtodayshow.com.
That's right, and we want you to help us keep the conversation moving forward. You can do that by supporting the show. You can share it online with your friends and family. Leave us a good 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasting content from. We're going to leave a couple of links in the description so you can do just that.
The verse of the day today is coming to you from Matthew chapter 5, verse 10. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Life is going to throw you some curveballs. Life is going to come down hard on you. But then you enter into persecution, and that's something that we in the West really don't have to deal with very much. Although we are starting to see it come out little by little. By and large, we've been very, very fortunate to not have to deal with active persecution against the church. But make no mistake, it could happen. I know Dr. Shah's had that happen in the East when he was growing up, and it's something that is very real. But I think these words that Jesus says, blessed are those who have to endure that persecution for righteousness' sake. Not just because I did something wrong and now I'm being punished for it, but for the sake of the gospel I'm being persecuted. There's a very real blessing that comes from that.
Yeah, we lose sight of that, and we lose sight of how fortunate we are to live where we are. I mean, to have the freedoms that we have to be able to worship and gather together. And so our heart should go out to those brothers and sisters we have around the world who are suffering for their faith. I mean, that is a very real truth for many people who worship God around the globe, is that they are persecuted, they are suffering for their faith, but it is a faith worth suffering for. And this is one of the things that we can point to as proof that the Bible is true. I mean, if people, they concoct this theory that everybody in the early church just made up the events of the Bible.
Right.
Why would so many people be willing to be persecuted and die for a lie?
Yeah.
That does not make any sense. And that is a huge mark in the positive column that proves that the Bible is true.
I even think about the disciples, like 12 men all put to death with the chance to be let free if only one of them would recant, and every single one of them, no, not going to do it.
Yeah.
So, that makes a good point. And the Bible is so true. And if you want these verses coming to you every single day, you can subscribe to the Date the Word app. That's where we get all the verses for this show. Is made by a good friend of ours, Dr. Dwayne Carson. Make sure you go ahead and download that for free. It's 100% free right now on iPhone or Android, and every single day connects today's date to God's Word with the hope of making it more memorable for you. We had someone write into the show today, and I wanted to read this to you. People really love these $1 million questions, and I really love the prospect of getting $1 million.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is I really love these $1 million questions, but I would love even more if somebody starts backing these $1 million.
Yeah, I know,
questions.
right?
I love that you're posing questions, but put some money behind your question.
There's got to be someone with this kind of money laying around who listens to the show and is like, I could really make one of these happen. Here's one I got.
I'm only kidding, unless I'm not.
Yeah. No, I'll take it for 100%. I'll take it. $1 million, but your hair 24/7. Your hair is wet.
Oh,
yeah. Like, when you get out of the shower right before you dry it, it's like dripping wet.
No.
What?
No, immediately no.
For $1 million?
No.
Are you insane? Why not?
No, I'm not insane. I'm dry. No, I would not take that. That's horrible. That's terrible.
No, not at all. Look, if your hair's wet, you can slick it back. You can look good.
Absolutely not.
Women, I will say this, women don't look great with wet hair, but guys kind of do.
That was a trend like not long ago. Is it just that slicked back, like still looking wet look? I think that's
for girls or for guys? Or for both?
For girls.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw it more in women than men, but men, that's the greaser look, like way back.
Yeah, but you're a millionaire.
But your hair's not dripping at that point. Like for your hair to look wet and be actually wet are two different things. Look wet, I'm fine. Be actually wet, I mean, that's like dripping down your back. That's like you lean over to write something and it's like dripping on what you're writing. That's on your computer keyboard. That's your pillow at night is wet. Absolutely not.
The person who wrote in didn't specify. They just said $1 million, but your hair is constantly wet. I would assume that they mean, because if you just got damp hair, I don't think that's worth $1 million. I'm assuming that it's dripping wet.
Yeah.
David, would you do it? Because I feel like you don't have that much. You've got short hair, but would you let your hair be?
I probably wouldn't do it.
For $1 million?
That sounds
What's wrong,
terribly
Nicholas? Would you
uncomfortable.
do it? What's wrong with you people? I'm the only person. I'm the only person who would.
dripping
I don't
wet?
want to be
No.
I don't want to be dripping. Like,
Do you want to be rich?
Terrible.
not that
Not that
much.
bad.
And also, $1 million is more than I have, but it's not that rich.
It's not that rich to have $1 million.
He's
That's what
right.
rich means. Is
He's
that you're
right.
a millionaire.
No.
Yes.
No. 1 million is not that rich. It's rich, but it's
if
not.
you offered me like $1 billion, I'd be like, yeah, I'd just be soaking
$1
wet.
billion, David.
or like 5 million. I mean, we don't have to go like outrageous.
Greedy.
5 million,
Oh, greedy.
maybe.
I'm too greedy
But
for
$1
me.
million.
1 million goes faster than you think it does.
I want all the money in the world, and then I'll have a water on my head.
Make me Bezos.
Jeff Bezos style.
No,
That's
I
why
don't-
he shaved. That's why he shaved all his hair off.
Because he's always dripping wet.
He's always dripping wet.
But here's the argument with that. Even if you shave, like, okay, I understand that. Shave your head, get your hair
Yes.
as close as possible to your hair, to your head. You just have water running
Yes.
everywhere.
Yeah, it's dripping.
No,
It's
wow.
wow.
Nope, I would not take that.
Maybe
y'all
that's why
take
he's trying
that?
to go to space, is so that the water doesn't actually drip.
That's it. It
deal.
just floats off his head.
It
instead
looks
of
like a clown wig. It just
Anti-gravity clown
It looks
wig.
like a clear clown wig. You try
Yeah,
to
no, I
pop
would
it.
not take that.
Wow, I would take it in a heartbeat.
take that.
Hair dripping wet for the rest of your life. What about you guys? Would y'all take it?
I wonder if Dr. Shah would. I know he's very particular about his hair.
He wouldn't take it. 100%. If y'all ain't taking it, he's not taking it. No way. No way.
I'll ask him, but I don't
His hair looks already kind of has that achieved wet look though.
So that's what I'm saying. Like looking wet and being wet are two different
It's wet.
things.
It is wet.
Yeah, no.
But the thing is, you might have some good looking hair, but you don't have $1 million. It's $1 million.
Still no.
Okay.
Still no.
I'm
Write
done.
in and let us know if you would take that deal, you soggy-headed, strange people. Write in and let us know. 252-582-5028.
Oh, your hair would stink to
It
high
would be
heavens, too.
horrible.
Ooh,
And you'd
golly.
be freezing in the winter.
Bro.
252-582-5028, or you can visit us online at clearviewtodayshow.com. Stay tuned and hopefully stay dry. We'll be back after this.
Hey, what's going on, listeners? My name is John,
And I'm Ellie.
and we just want to take a second and let you know about Dr. Shah's new book on the market right now called Can We Recover the Original Text of the New Testament? Boy, that is a long title.
True, but it's a very simple message. The original text of the New Testament is not only attainable, but there are lots of different ways that scholars go about discovering it.
There's a lot of people out there saying that the original text is lost forever, or that it's hopeless to actually try to find it, or that there's many texts of the New Testament. But alongside Dr. David Allen Black, Dr. Shah has actually compiled papers from some of the world's leading experts in textual criticism, including one written by himself on various methodologies for extracting the original text. And listen, if you're interested in textual criticism, this book is a great introduction to the field.
You can pick up your copy on Amazon, or you can buy it from our church website. That's clearviewbc.org. We're going to leave a link in the description box so you can get your copy today.
Love that. Ellie, let's hop back in.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to Clearview Today with Dr. Abadan Shah, the daily show that engages mind and heart for the gospel of Jesus Christ. You can visit us online at clearviewtodayshow.com, or if you have any questions or suggestions for new topics, send us a text to 252-582-5028.
That's right, and we're here in the Clearview Today studio with Dr. Abadan Shah, who is a PhD in New Testament textual criticism, professor at Carolina University, author, full-time pastor, and the host of today's show, soon to be millionaire. Let's just see. Let's just see how today
We're gonna
goes.
see.
You know something I don't.
Well, Dr. Shah, it is Friday, and you know what that means. It's time to just see what you'd be willing to do for $1 million. This one I feel like is pretty easy, but I think I know the outcome.
Okay.
It's $1 million. You get $1 million, but your hair is 100% of the time it's dripping wet. You just
Dripping?
like you know how you just get out of the shower before, and then
Yeah.
that's like, I don't know if that's the first thing I do is I get my head, but it's like that never works. It's always just wet.
I mean, for $1 million?
For $1 million, yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's like
I'm particular about my hair.
yeah, well, that and it's just uncomfortable.
It's just uncomfortable. All your
Yeah.
clothes stay wet.
Yeah.
It's just like, ugh.
But back in the 2000s, that was the style.
Yes.
A lot
Yeah.
of girls were. Now, I don't know about the guys. Were
Some
the guys,
guys.
doing that too?
Some-
Oh, yeah, yeah.
not a lot, but some, yeah.
Yeah. I saw that the first time. I was like, should she not dry her hair?
Yep.
Did
Yep.
she not dry her hair?
It's wet.
Oh, no. It's supposed to look like that.
I remember
But it
that.
was not water. It was hairspray or whatever they were using it to make it.
It was
give
like
that
some
look.
pomade or something. There was a YouTuber that I really liked a lot, and I remember every video his hair was wet, and I remember that he did like a Q&A one time, and he was like, every time I film a video, I shower first, and then I get out, get dressed, don't dry my hair, and I just film it because he liked that wet hair look. I remember that. That was the thing.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, why are they doing that? That's a style.
That's
That was
a
the style.
tough million. Like I'm thinking, that's relatively low stakes.
Yeah.
However, you're uncomfortable forever. You
Yeah.
go to lay down at night. Your pillow's
I would
wet.
say just go short hair. Just go really short like this.
I guess because then your hair can only be so wet at that point.
Yeah, I like the shiny look.
Yeah.
So that's just me.
So you could go for it.
I could, as long as it's not like constantly dripping.
Yeah.
I'll say it's wet. It's just wet. It's
I'll
not
take
like
it then.
dripping on your
Then I'll
clothes.
take it.
I think
You
I
take
would
it?
need to see the million.
Yeah.
Like I need visual confirmation that the million does actually exist.
got
Show me the
trust
money,
issues, dude.
and then
I
show
do
me the
it.
money, and then I'll go for it.
I'll steal a kid's birthday cake, but wet hair, that's out
Wet
of the
hair,
picture.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so wet hair do care.
Yeah, wet hair do
Wet
care.
hair do care. And, people see you and they look at your hair and whether it is actually wet or not, you have to actually see it in person in order to determine whether it is actually
Yeah, that's true. Just like you need
Otherwise,
to
you
see
won't
that
believe
million.
it.
Yeah, because if someone comes up to you and is like, "I'll give you $1 million," but your
Yeah, I
hair's
need to
always
see
wet,
it in order to
you
believe
got to
it.
see that wet.
I got to see it in order to believe it.
$1 million.
That proof. That
Excellent.
proof piece.
Excellent.
That's what we're
Excellent.
talking about today in light of our faith. Sometimes people have that, I got to see it in order to believe it.
Right.
But the Christian life doesn't always work that way.
Right.
And in light of that, Dr. Shah, what is our daily encouragement today?
Walk by faith, not by sight.
That's true.
Walk by faith. Faith is not just a leap in the dark. Faith is not just forcing yourself to act on some thought, some idea. Faith, as Hebrews gives us a definition, is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So there is a substance. You're standing on some truth,
Right.
some rock solid evidence, but you're stepping out in faith knowing that you're standing on this truth. So it's not just wishful thinking, it's not just hoping against hope. This is much more concrete, but it still has the element of you have to believe what you don't see.
Right.
And I think you're in a very unique position as a scholar because your entire field revolves around evidence.
Yes.
Like searching
Yeah.
evidence for the fact that there was an original text.
Right.
And so it's not. How do you balance that as because you're a scholar and you're a full-time pastor,
Right.
And so there is the sense of I'm stepping out on faith with something that I know I can't prove this side of heaven. At the same time, I'm looking for as much evidence as possible so that I can provide people with rock solid biblical grounding.
I mean, you pretty much touched or you have pointed the bullseye of what I'm trying to do.
Right.
And have been doing for a long time is walk that fine line. Not everybody can do it, and I'm not saying I'm doing it well, but that's what I'm trying to do, where I'm trying to bridge the academic world and the ministry world. And again, like I said, not everybody can do it, and I'm not sure if I'm doing it well, but that's my goal.
Yeah.
Bringing not just surface academic work, but deep theological issues, critical issues, current, up-to-date discussions that are taking place right now in the conferences. Series are being assigned. Dissertations are being written. I want to bring that information and bring it to the people in the pews.
Right.
Bring it to people in Sunday school and help them understand the issues now, not 10 years down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to repeat the same stuff that they can find in a book.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's tough. Sometimes I have to really dig deep
Yeah.
and get to the heart of the matter.
True.
And then distill it down and bring it to Sunday morning sermon or Saturday night sermon and say, this is what's happening. And this is what the Word of God is really saying. And this is how you apply it to your life. And it's some days it gets tough.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And to us, it seems like you're walking that line very well. But what
Yeah.
are some of the challenges that you faced in bringing those two worlds together? What are some struggles that have come up?
Great questions. One of the struggles is understanding the issue for myself. because my field is textual criticism, especially New Testament textual criticism. So if I am going to, say, approach Trinity, Trinity is not my focus, but I did take a PhD seminar in the Trinity, or the doctrine of the Trinity, and so I was exposed to some very important works when it comes to the doctrine of Trinity. I heard papers from other PhD students. We were lectured by some major theologians on the doctrine of the Trinity. I even read a paper called The Doctrine of the Trinity in its Interface with Islam at the ETS in Atlanta. This is back in 2000, I want to say 3.
Wow.
And so I read that paper.
Did you ever publish it?
No, I didn't publish it. And I would like to publish it one day.
Yeah.
And I read that paper in my PhD seminar.
Right.
And then I actually read it at ETS.
Nice.
So it sort of had double impact there. So I had to understand Trinity. And so let's say I'm preaching on that. So I'm going to make sure, what is the debate going on? What is the issues? What are the issues? What are people talking about? I don't want to pick up something from the 1800s and bring it out as if, oh, see, this is an issue. Nobody's talking about that. So I'm going to do journal research, because journals are the places where you find the latest discussion. I'm going to check conference schedules and presenters and see what are they talking about. Was there a special section dedicated at ETS or SBL on the Trinity? And then I will see, okay, they're talking about that. Okay, now I got to find out what that is. So then I'll dig into it, print out articles. There are times I print out like 10 articles, didn't even read but one, because no time.
Yeah.
And if the subject is a little complicated, then I'll run out of time.
Right.
But then I find something. God always helps me there. And I find that, oh, that issue, I can still expose people to something here, and it'll still be at a lower shelf that they can take and apply it for their lives. And it'll still be relevant. It won't be like novel. Huh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Well, that's cool. That's cool. Not sure what I'll do with it. No, I want people to go, hey, this is my Sunday morning message.
Right. Right.
And this is where it applies to my life right now, in my marriage, with my children, with my work, with my health, with my desire to win somebody to the Lord. It applies very well. But in the process, what I'm doing is I'm taking a very cutting edge issue going on regarding the doctrine of the Trinity, and I'm bringing it to people, but it's still at a level they can take and apply it.
Yeah.
Do you think that's why other scholars who are in your field, because there's tons of text critics, maybe not tons, but there are some text critics who are just not Christians at all. Then there are other text critics who are text critics, but they just believe. Then there's other text critics who are in your field and they believe and they may preach, but they're not full-time pastors.
Right.
Do you think that's...
There are one or two who are full-time pastors.
Really?
Yeah.
But do you think that's where that extra level of it comes in? Because you're seeking evidence and you're verifying and you are getting to the bottom of the truth, even if the truth happens to be unpleasant, or if it's like, hey, there are real issues here in the text that we have to address. At the same time, my faith has never been stronger, and I'm going to make sure that my congregation's faith has never been stronger.
Yeah. You described it very well.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do.
I got you.
And I'm doing it not just with trying to be as positive as possible or believe against belief. No, I'm actually convinced, and it happens. Saturday night, as many of you know, or our viewers, listeners would know, we have a service at 6:30 every Saturday night.
That's right.
And I'm usually working on the sermon all day Saturday, and I start working on it very early in the week, little by little. By Friday, I'm very much honed in on where I'm headed in that sermon. But then the research begins on Saturday morning.
Right.
And I'll spend Saturday reading. And I set a time limit. By 2 o'clock, I need to start writing.
Right.
Many times it's like 4, and I haven't even put one word down on my sermon.
Wow.
And usually my sermon should be like 4 pages, maybe 5, if I want to preach for 35 to 40 minutes. And I go, not word for word, but I have all my major points and thoughts on paper.
Yeah.
So by 5 o'clock, it's like I should have at least introduction down, at least my main point down, at least the main divisions of the sermon laid out. I
Right.
should have them by 5. Sometimes it happens 5:30, and I'm like, okay, I got to get this done.
Right.
So I have the major things laid out, done, ready to go, and then I'm ready to preach. Sometimes that getting to that main point and how it applies comes a little late.
Yeah.
But then Saturday, for those of you who are listening and you're wondering how all this works, for us right here, Clearview, after our Saturday night service, we'll come together as a team and we'll look at things and go, okay, this part right here maybe needs to be fleshed out more. This part right here is great, but it did not line up with where you're going in the main point of the message.
Right.
Maybe hold that off. So a lot of things you guys suggest, and I take it and I work on it Saturday night. Then I get up Sunday morning early, and I'll work the rest of it. And David will take it and put it in the presenter, the programs, and then pro presenter, and then
Right.
Sunday morning 3 times.
Yeah.
I'll preach it.
And but it looks polished, and it looks
Yeah.
like it looks cohesive, and it looks
Yeah.
like one unit.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but
And I think that goes back to what you were saying earlier, where you're doing the research, but that God is guiding you. God is leading you to the point that you need,
Yeah.
and the marriage of those two worlds, the scholarly and the faith, is evident in your response there, and even in us coming together and talking about the message. For so many people, they could look at that and say, "Well, that's skill, or that's practice, or that's what you've always done," and certainly that is involved.
Sure.
But believing that God is working through it, you can see how God is working through it. So
Yeah.
that seeing comes after the believing part.
And it's
Yeah.
one of the things too where it's like people are like, okay, well, you just believe that, you know what I mean? But it's not. You still have done all this research for 20 something
Right.
years. I mean, how long you've been? Almost 30 years now. You've been researching in a scholarly sense, I would say.
I would say almost 1993. Now, I didn't get called in the ministry until 1995. But in 1993, I took a 1-hour class called Introduction to Biblical Languages, not knowing that I would end up in ministry.
Yeah.
But I took that class. It had introductory Greek and introductory Hebrew, and that's where it's like almost like it was like, oh, I like this.
Right.
But then it was not a major thought. It was nothing more than that. I did very well in that class. And other students in that class who were actually ministry students, I just happened to have an elective. I didn't know what to do with it. I was broadcast journalism major in second year of college. I was like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And that's when it was like, maybe, and then dropped it. So really, from 1993.
So someone who's been
30
doing
years
this,
now.
that's what encourages me, I think, is that you see someone who's been doing this for 30 something years, and their research has never ramped down.
Yeah.
It's
No.
only gotten more and more and more. Whereas
Yeah.
me, I've not put any research in. All I have is, yes, faith, but also logic, understanding. That stuff can be twisted. You can't twist data. You
Yeah.
can't twist
Yeah.
and manipulate and reword empirical data about the scriptures and about Christ.
Right.
So if someone who's put that work in is saying, hey, listen, I believe this with all my heart, it bolsters my faith. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? Rather
yes.
than listening to TikTok influencers or people who are up on a stage with a savvy platform and they're speaking really nice and
They know how to connect.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they make quote unquote good points,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they're not true.
Right.
Right. And that happens a lot. So you have scholars who have the truth, they have done the research, and you have people who present, or they're the popularizers, and they have the savvy, the ability to connect with the audience and all that, but their facts are either dated or they're wrong.
Yeah.
And so
Or they're being artfully deceitful.
yeah.
Where they're saying things that sound true or may have a nugget of truth. So I
Right.
take the whole thing as true.
Or then you have a scholar who connects well with people, but he puts it with a twist, with his angle, which is not very biblical. Which is someone like Bart Ehrman does that. He's a good communicator, but at the same time, you walk away going, I don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah.
And so, to bring those two together is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And so research, study, digging deep, getting to the heart of the issue, getting to the most up-to-date current discussions happening in the academia helps me to then talk to people, but do it in a way that they can understand. And it doesn't shake my faith because, as I mentioned, I think some shows back, that decision was already made for me.
What do you think is the difference? So take someone like Bart Ehrman, and then take someone like you, and the countless other scholars who are in your field, who the more they study, the more affirmed they get. What do you think is the difference? Where's the breakdown? Do you think someone like Ehrman or someone who does study the scriptures and still walks away with unbelief, do you think they want that?
I have wondered that a lot, especially with regards to Bart Ehrman.
Yeah.
You know, he's very well educated. I mean, he's a Princeton PhD. He studied under Bruce Metzger. He's written so many books. I have used his scholarly books far more than his popularizing books or his popular books. And, you know, his research is great. Then there are places that his research is there, but it's put in a way that when you read it, he does it very skillfully. And I think it's skillfully deceitful because, yes, his information is there, but it's presented in a way you could walk away with more doubts and confusions rather than with strong faith.
Right.
So I've done a lot of thinking on him and why he does and has done what he has done, and I often come down to motive. His motive is not right. His motive is very he presents himself as this person who's searching for truth. But I don't think that's really what he's doing. I don't think he's searching for truth. He presents himself as one who is an objective investigator. But I don't think he is objectively investigating anything.
Yeah, because if you're objectively investigating, why do you spend so much time doing talks, trying so hard to convince people that the Bible is untrue? If you're truly objective,
he will disagree with that.
He would say, "I don't do that."
Yeah, he will say, "No, I'm not trying to prove the Bible is untrue. I am simply laying out the facts that most scholars, even evangelical scholars, would agree with me." That's how he will say it, and that's where you go, wait. What do you mean evangelical scholar? He's like, of course, synoptic problem. Most evangelical scholars agree with me that the Bible and the Gospels contradict each other. The accounts contradict each other. And then now you're listening. You're like, okay, wait.
Yeah, but then because now it's on me. Now I have to go find all the evangelical scholars and be like, do you agree with this, guys? And of course, I'm not going to do that. So I just have to trust him.
And unfortunately, at times, many evangelical scholars have espoused and taken on certain conclusions coming from historical critical studies. So when somebody says that and they go check and say, oh, sure enough, they say the same thing as Bart Ehrman is saying. So, but they still end up sort of retreating back to the safe space of faith. But Bart Ehrman takes it down to the natural conclusion, which is, hence, the Bible is not the Word of God. These people say the same things, but then they go, but I still believe the Bible is the Word of God.
I see.
So what do you do with that?
So you said his motive is not right. Do you mean incorrect, or do you mean like bad?
Like morally wrong?
I think, again, it's a very judging motives is not always the best thing to do.
Sure.
Because then anybody can judge anybody's motives.
Right.
People can judge my motive, your motive, and it's a very subjective category.
Right.
But I think he has a level of confidence in himself. He's a very confident person. Confident in his accomplishments, confident in his academic credibility, confidence in the fact that all these people flock to him,
right?
Whether they are against Christianity or for Christianity, he has so much confidence. And he is speaking from that level of confidence where he is now above what is accepted as truth. And it's a very, it's sad to watch.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to say, there you're wrong. Yes, I can say that, and I can point places where he is wrong. But then he'll come back with 15 other things to say, there you are wrong. or there, you don't know what you're talking about. And so what most people end up doing is they just back off.
Mm-hmm.
But in the backing off, he keeps rolling forward with his agenda.
Yeah.
And it not only misleads a lot of people, but it's also, I think it's misleading him.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing the impact of it because there is this fundamental disconnect between what we see, what we observe, and what we believe. And I feel like the more that people, him and scholars like him, are able to do these things without any pushback or without any shows like this that are saying, no, that actually is wrong, and we can tell you what's right.
There are some who do that, but it was really loud at one time, and then it sort of has settled down because sometimes there are a lot of things that happen, whether there's academic integrity or the scholars who opposed him now themselves came out with problems in their own work, and then it's like makes us all look like dummies.
Yeah.
So a lot of crazy things happen in this crazy world. David, you had something to add?
Yeah, I don't know how much time we have, so it might have to be in the next show, but I think that I would really like to hear the conclusion of the thought you were going with when you said that these scholars agreed with Ehrman on certain points. So if you follow the natural conclusion, it leads you to a certain place, but they retreat back to faith. How do you get around that?
Yeah, well, I would say, and maybe we can discuss that in the next show, I would say you need to question some of the historical critical conclusions. You need to question them and say, are those really the conclusions we need to still hold on to without being naive? Don't be naive. We don't have to become like 1800s fundamentalist scholars.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying they were all bad, because some of those fundamentalist scholars were really scholars and their work needs to be brought back. Okay. They really did their work, but they have been all lumped together as, man, they didn't know what they're talking about. No, some of them really knew what they were talking about, and still their research stands. But some of us need to really challenge some of the accepted conclusions that people on both sides of the aisle take as this is the truth.
Yeah.
For example, Mark and priority. Matthew, Mark, Luke are synoptic gospels. Mark and priority is a conclusion in biblical studies that says Mark wrote first, and then Matthew and Luke used Mark, or some variation if you bring Q as well in it,
Right.
and all that. So this is, why don't we challenge that? Because when you go by Mark and priority, then of course there are certain conclusions that do follow.
So that was going to be my question: is what is the harm, or what is the implication of Mark coming first?
Is that one of the implications that also gets us in trouble is that these were not gospels written separately.
Right.
They were simply copied from one person, so we don't know for sure how much objectivity Matthew had.
Yeah.
So but I will come back and say something like, well, if Matthew walked with Jesus as a tax collector who was educated, then he did not need Mark as much as we think. Then someone like Bart Ehrman and others will come back and say, but where do we even know that Matthew wrote the gospel that we know as the Gospel of Matthew? Tradition. Tradition came later. Are you telling me that because the church said that Matthew wrote, that Matthew really wrote? Could it be that this was written by somebody?
And then the church later attributed it to Matthew.
To Matthew? So now we have to deal with tradition at that point and say, okay, how much can we trust in tradition?
Right.
But yeah, they're right. Some places it's like 100 years later, you find out a church father says, and again, I'm not saying that about Matthew.
Right.
But sometimes that can happen.
Yeah.
And then you have to dig into that. So it's a lot of work has to be done. So many times we just accept the conclusions and say, no, yeah, okay, Mark and priority is it.
But your faith is on the line, though. I mean, ultimately, that's one of those things where I'm willing to compromise here. It's like I might be safe for the time being, but down the road, I'll be willing to compromise on something that really impacts my
If
faith.
the compromises start, where do they stop?
Right.
Right, and that's the problem. That is the heart of the problem.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about this tomorrow.
Yeah. I love it.
Or Monday, I should say.
I love that approach that you bring, Dr. Shah, and we can continue this conversation tomorrow, but stand with your feet on scholastic ground and research and scholarly work, but be led by faith. Like that's the ground you're planted on, but the way forward is being led by faith.
Yep.
So helpful for us. If today was helpful for you in clarifying some things in your understanding, if it raised some more questions for you and you like those answered, write in and let us know, 252-582-5028. Or you can visit us online at clearviewtodayshow.com. Don't forget, you can partner with us financially on that same website. Getting messages like this to the nations for the sake of the gospel is our heart, and we know that that's your heart as well. So scroll to the bottom of that page, click that donate button, and let us know it's coming from our Clearview Today Show family. We're going to pick up this conversation on Monday, but John, what encouragement do you want to leave our listeners with this weekend?
Praise the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength. Praise him for he is I'm trying to do it from memory, but I can't remember it. Listen, go to church, find somewhere to worship the Lord. Come back and see us on Monday. Maybe send us some pictures of you and your church setup, some hashtag Sunday Fun Day pics, and maybe we'll air them on the show. But no matter what happens, come back and see us Monday because we're going to pick this conversation back.
Love that. Make sure you guys are in church this weekend and make sure you tune back in Monday. We love you guys. We'll see you on Monday on Clearview Today.